Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of the TechBond podcast. My guest today is none other than the man and the legend, Eric Su. Eric is founder and chairman of the growth marketing agency Single Grain, author of the book Leveling Up, co-host of the podcast Marketing School, angel investor, and a creator at Leveling Up NFT, which is an NFT that trains and invests in entrepreneurs. Today, Eric and I pitch each other 3 ideas for how we would grow the luxury conglomerate LVMH. So LVMH is Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy, is the largest luxury brand in the world, led and founded by the second richest man in the world. This podcast, Eric and I pitch each other ideas of how we would grow the company if we had unlimited funds and resources. Today's episode is sponsored by Digital Olympus. As SEO, you know that you need a strong backlink profile to go after competitive keywords, and backlinks can make the difference between a successful and a failing SEO strategy. However, getting links is difficult and tedious and sometimes simply impossible. So you need a strong partner with a vast network and tight relationships. Digital Olympus is your trustworthy link building partner. Through the relationships that they build, Digital Olympus has access to links that are hard to get and maybe even impossible. So check out digitalolympus.net. And now please enjoy this episode with Eric Su. 3, 2, 1. Eric, thanks for doing this. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Kev.
Man, I'm pumped about this one. So today's topic is how would you grow LVMH? And to provide a little bit of an introduction, a little bit of context here. So LVMH is an acronym standing for Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy. So it's a conglomerate of some of the best luxury brands in the world. Eric, you know who the richest person in the world is?
I thought it was Jeff Bezos or Elon, but
that's right. It's Elon Musk. Most people don't know who the second richest person in the world is, though, and that is Bernard Arnault. And this guy is a baller. I mean, first of all, net worth, $170 billion, which is pretty crazy. That's not money made in tech, right? That's more than Bill Gates, is more than Jeff Bezos. By the way, Bezos has 167 billion, so it's pretty close. But more than Buffett, more than Zuckerberg. So pretty crazy dude. He was born in France, and this guy is super aggressive and calculated. So here's what happened. He was born in 49, became an engineer, went to college, and then started in the family business. And so the family business is in construction. And he starts and kind of pivots the company to a much more lucrative area, and eventually becomes CMO and brings it to profitability, kind of, blows it up. And so one day, he flies to New York City and he sits in a cab, and the driver recognizes his accent, his French accent. The guy, Arnault, asked the cab driver, "Hey, do you know who the French president is at the time?" And the cab driver is like, "No, but I heard the name Christian Dior." And so that was kind of the moment when Arnault was like, okay, like this is like luxury is huge. That's kind of the way to go. And so he goes back to France. He puts all of his money, like $60 million down to buy the parent company of Dior. So kind of has an entry. And at the time, the parent company of Dior owned like a bunch of other brands and things as well. And so Arnault comes in and he strips all the non-luxury brand businesses out, basically divests, fires the people, is super aggressive, and only keeps Dior and Bon Marché, which is like type of a luxury supermarket chain or retail chain. And then from there on, he just like goes on a rampage. He buys all sorts of luxury brands, and then goes on this hostile takeover of Louis Vuitton and Hennessy, which at the times were still separate companies. So this is kind of crazy story. I'm not going to dwell too long on it, but he buys brands like Marc Jacobs, Givenchy, Fendi, Sephora, all the good stuff, right? And so fast forward to today, the company Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy is in like all sorts of luxury industries: clothing, cosmetics, fashion, jewelry, spirits, wines, watches, perfumes. They have 75 brands, some of which I already mentioned, and they're killing it, right? So the company today is worth $329 billion. They make $64 billion in annual revenue, which is only means the valuation is only 5x multiple, which in my mind is not that much for such a company. They make a net profit of $12 billion a year, and they have 120 global employees across 5,500 stores. So a huge conglomerate. And here comes the reason for why we're talking about this today. So they just recently announced their Q2 earnings for 2022. And while most other companies are missing their expectations, LVMH actually is crushing it. So sales were up 90% year over year, right? 2021 to 2022 Q2, 19% up. And 35% of that revenue actually comes from Asia and only 26% from the US. So Asia is growing much, much faster. In 2019, it was only 30% of total revenue. Today, it's 35% of total revenue, while the US is pretty much stagnating. And here comes the kicker, right? Because of COVID, and because China recently locked down to prevent the spread of COVID, now actually China, one of the biggest markets, is slowing and they're really struggling with it. And at the same time, Europe and the US are recovering from COVID and the dollar is pretty strong. So they're making a lot more money in the US. So that was a long-winded intro, but now we have kind of the context and set the stage a little bit. And Eric and I, we came together and we want to brainstorm some cool ideas of how we would grow LVMH if we were kind of responsible for growth. And this is kind of completely pie in the sky. So anything that based on our experience, that could work is possible. And I'm done talking now because I talk quite a lot. I'm handing it over to Eric from here. So Eric, what's your first idea?
Yeah, Kevin, do you mind if I make it practical for people to on what they can learn from this guy?
Please.
So, by the way, I mean this 329 billion valuation on if you value it on a net income, it's a 27x multiples. It's decent. It's not well, software multiples have come down. There's been compression, but if you look at like a Elon, his whole thesis is the future. If you look at what Bezos bet on initially, it was the internet. And you look at this guy, he bet on luxury, right? So very focused, and look at what they've done over time. And what this guy has done is he's gone on an acquiring spree, right? The key thing is you focus and then you continue to acquire around your thesis, and it ends up working out. And that's how a lot of these companies have grown. The other thing I want to call out too is that this guy's an engineer. Elon's also an engineer as well. Jeff Bezos more of a finance guy, but they have very strong foundations. Did you want to say something, Kevin?
No, you're absolutely on the money here. I love how you add that context because there's a lot to learn. So please go on.
Yeah. So, in terms of how we would grow it, I mean, obviously they're on acquisition spree. The first thing I would say that's actually very trendy right now is Tiffany, the luxury brand. They actually just did a collaboration with CryptoPunks. And CryptoPunks is an NFT. They're one of kind of the two blue chips that are out there. And basically they said, hey, you know what? We're going to do, I think, 250 or 300 of these, CryptoPunks that are designed to be necklaces. And they basically sold out like very quickly. Now, I think that's very smart because they've got millions and millions and millions of impressions. Sure, they got a little revenue, like, I don't know, 13 or 15 million, which, yes, that's a lot of money, but it's really nothing. It's a rounding error to these companies. But I'm more interested from a marketing aspect on the hundreds of millions or billions of impressions you can get by collaborating with people, these large NFT brands, because you see so many people doing collaborations right now. Like, for whatever reason, in the last 12 months, every big company out there is down to do some type of NFT collaboration, right? So this is a chance right now to kind of take advantage of the hype, and who knows how long the hype's going to last, but you jump on these things when they appear.
Yeah, I love that idea because there's also a lot of brand association in it. And I feel like some of these luxury brands maybe it's just me, but they can feel a little bit like outdated and a little bit like traditional and classic. So do you feel like there's value in kind of like co-branding a little bit with some of these like younger or like more kind of plays that address younger audiences?
Yeah, I think there's taste, and to your point, like relevancy is very important, right? And so with the younger crowd, you want to stay relevant, and you want to do stuff that's cool. And Tiffany's like they don't just collaborate with anybody. They're upper tier. They're not Celine tier when it comes to purses, right? But I think there's ways to do this tastefully without kind of ruining your brand image.
Absolutely. And I mean, the whole the whole idea behind NFTs is scarcity. And I feel like luxury brands tap totally into that because their customers want to stand out. They want to have things that other people don't have. Cool. Thanks for pitching this one. I'm gonna jump in with my first idea. So my first idea is about cross sales. And so right now the experience when you buy a Tag Heuer watch or something else, right? It's pretty isolated and pretty focused on the brand, which is not always a bad thing. But if I had to substantially grow revenue for LVMH, I'd be curious, how can I keep customers more in the ecosystem of products of their company and minimize the risk of them buying from another brand, right? So the pie in the sky idea is like you could literally sell Tag Heuer watches in Dior stores and serve Moet champagne while customers are buying. The challenge with that is that you don't want to dilute the brand too much, right? You don't want to make it seem like it's a supermarket, because these luxury brand stores are like they're very kind of, it's like a very high class premium experience. But that kind of concept exists everywhere else, right? It exists in e-commerce where you have related products or these customer also bought kind of modules on the product pages. And you can kind of bundle products sometimes with complete the look. I think it's Adidas that does that pretty well on their product pages. So what you do instead of doing it in the store is you do it online, right? You can do this via email, where if you have customer email data and you're able to kind of track what they buy, you then develop kind of an attribution system that helps you send them offers of products that are complementary to what they bought, right? You can also do it, number two, on the online store itself, right? On the online experience, on the surfaces, you can maybe show related products or complete the look products from other brands, right? So you go to louisvuitton.com and you might see Tiffany, rings to complete the look or something like that, or Tiffany watches, right? And you want to drive more signups for a logged-in experience online. The positive or the benefit of a logged-in experience is that you can much better track customers as they move through your web ecosystem, right? As they move through your websites and track kind of what they do. But the question is, how do you drive lock-ins, right? And so I have three ideas. One is you want to incentivize people to sign up for the locked-in experience by letting them save ownership certificates, right? Ownership certificates, kind of like receipts, huge problem, pain in the butt, because you buy these super expensive watches or bags, but you can easily lose a paper receipt, right? And so this, like, one incentive is you can just store your receipt of ownership in the logged-in experience on, say, louisvuitton.com or Dior.com. Number two is you send them exclusive invites to in-store events, right? So the company has 5,500 stores, and they close probably at a certain time in most countries. And I wonder, can you do like a monthly kind of cocktail hour, right? To just invite like a small group of people, and again, like you can serve the Moet champagne and maybe give people samples of the Dior perfumes or whatever. And so they only get that when they sign up for the website or for the email newsletter. And last, you have a lot of collectors who buy these luxury items, and you can provide them a service to track the value of their products over time in the logged-in experience, and they can only get that if they provide a lock-in. All these things help you collect more data about your customers, and then eventually upsell them or cross-sell them more effectively.
I love it. I think first party data, right? You have to own your data. Third party data is becoming more difficult. So I think this is really smart.
Thanks, man. Awesome. Cool. Round two. Eric, what you got?
Going on the NFT, building on kind of the NFT piece. So there are some luxury watches out there that are basically, if you have a luxury watch that's worth a couple $100,000, you probably want to insure it. And so the insurers are actually asking for these luxury watch brands to verify, to add an NFT to it, so you can verify kind of the ownership, right? So, adding NFT verification for all luxury products, plus adding an insurance policy on top of it. So that insurance revenue is basically all float at the end of the day. Think of it like Starbucks, right? Starbucks has all these people that pay for these gift cards. I mean, that's float. That's money that they have, and a lot of these customers won't even use the money for a very long time. I think Starbucks can use the money immediately. So I do believe they can drive a couple $100 million, if not a couple of billies of using these insurance policies and kind of adding NFT verification for these luxury products. Plus, you have the scarcity aspect, right? People want status comes from scarcity, right? And so you can do that with digital stuff now. So why would you not have an NFT that's tied to the insurance product? So I think that's going to help grow. That's going to get more awareness, and I think that also gets a lot of PR eyeballs as well.
I love that. I love it because it's a secondary service. or like an add-on, and customers have and want to do that anyway, right? Like the worst thing to happen is probably you buy a watch for a lot of money and it breaks or it splinters or whatever, right? Or you lose it even or something. So you want to have insurance against that. Do you think it would make sense for LVMH to tap into the insurance business themselves, or do you think it makes more sense for them to collaborate with existing insurances?
I think you can start off by collaborating, and eventually you realize how much margin you're giving. You can decide to build it yourself. That's probably one of those crawl, walk, run scenarios.
I love that. Do you have any? Are you a watch collector?
No, I actually don't like wearing anything.
Makes two of us. Love it. Love the insurance. Love the NFT play here as well. In terms of like NFT verification, so you kind of what's interesting about this is also that when you sell that product and maybe somebody else, and that somebody else also gets insurance, that would then be stored on the blockchain as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
You kind of like a trace or like a ledger of ownership.
It's a ledger. It's an open ledger. Yep. And imagine this, like you probably maybe some people that are very status driven wants to show what they want to show on the ledger, all the luxury things that they own, right? That's probably going to paint a target on people's backs, but like some people are just going to do that. So
I love that because not only that, but it might also matter who sells the product, right? Like if you know and you can prove that, say, Elon Musk had worn that watch and he sells it. Right, like that.
It's on the blockchain,
yeah.
And you have an Elon Musk watch, which then it goes up in value. That's a great point.
I love that, man. Yeah, super smart. Cool. Kind of taps into my second idea, which is refurbished products. So I happen a lot of times. So basically, the idea is that customers buy products. Of course, applies to fashion. It doesn't apply to spirits or wines or perfumes, but reusable products. Customers buy those, and not everybody's a collector, and not everybody wants to keep wearing these products all the time. There's a seasonality component. And so LVMH could literally buy those products back, of course, for a lower amount, and then refurbish them, basically polish them, prop them up, and then sell them again. Kind of like a trade in your old one for a new one, which is already an existing concept, right? You have that in the car industry and a couple of other industry. And matter of fact, this is already done by some companies out there. There's a company called Reback that does that. I think Poshmark also sells some secondary hand bags and stuff. So I think LVMH should tap into the market and grab that piece of the value chain. And they can literally buy or build, better said, an online marketplace where they sell secondary kind of fashion. And so again, this already exists in like the car industry and other things. It's a kind of decent strategy for the recession. I'm saying decent because luxury goods are not as sensitive to the recession as other product segments. But that might still be attractive for some people who have a decent amount of money but have to household a bit more. So you can sell the product for cheaper, but you kind of increase the product lifetime value significantly because you can make a margin on it a second time. And you keep customers in the ecosystem. If they come back to you and kind of return or resell the product that they bought from you, you kind of keep them engaged. You kind of keep them with you, and you can keep collecting data about their preferences and what they do. Plus, you might even make them a deal on a new product, resell to the same customers, and grab a bit of market share, a bit of margin. And this happens also on eBay right now. So it increases product value, decreases the barrier to buy it as well, because some people might think to themselves, this is a lot of money that I'm spending. But if they know that they can like sell it back to the company, that might tip them over or might move them to buy. There's also quite a lot of search traffic for this. So people search for refurbished handbags for certain brands, like refurbished Louis Vuitton handbag or Marc Jacobs handbag. And so you can build this online marketplace and then literally grab more kind of value from customers and make them happy at the same time.
So I'm actually going to disagree with you here, Kevin, on this one.
Please.
The reason is because when you're a premium brand, you are premium. Like there's that status symbol, right? And so you don't necessarily want to go lower tier. And I hate saying the word lower tier, but like you don't want to like cheapen the value of what you have. You want it to be premium, right? That's like when you have like a Let's use Mercedes as an example versus like a Toyota. I think while this would probably drive more revenue, like I would agree with you there, I do believe it cheapens the brand, which I think net, like they probably don't want to do that.
It's a great push. And I love that you push back a little bit, because these are like pie in the sky type of ideas. And there's probably good reasons for why maybe the company hasn't done that already yet. So yeah, maybe there's like a different play to this whole idea. Maybe reselling is or like a secondary marketplace is not the best idea, but maybe there's like a kind of trade in your old bag for a new one. And then maybe there's something you can do. Because I think you can also trade in your Mercedes for a new one. The company will buy your car back. But I do understand that with fashion, it might be different story. And also, like things that people wore, that's a different story than a car, right? Like it has just a different feel to it. Cool. Thanks, man. Round number 3. What's your third idea?
Yeah, my third one is because the guy's so used to doing M&A, we'll just call this attention M&A. So where can you go acquire the attention? So let's say from an SEO standpoint, like are there other websites with strong domain authority, strong traffic, and strong, maybe they've got nice email lists as well. Can you go out there and buy the attention, or can you go out there and buy other TikToks, other YouTube channels out there? And maybe just continue to employ those people, put them on payroll. Because a lot of people that are really good with TikToks, I was just having a conversation today with someone that got 22 million views on his shorts in the last month or so. Like for the 22 million views in a month, you know what he's going to get paid, Kevin?
22 million views. How much is going to get paid a month by TikTok itself, or is there a sponsorship?
By YouTube. By YouTube.
YouTube. Okay, so revenue share. Quick math. Let me guess. $1 million a month.
$10,000. So the reason why it's $10,000 is because YouTube doesn't have. They actually don't integrate with YouTube. Kind of, we'll just call it YouTube monetization right now. You think about the incentives out there. YouTube wants to compete with TikTok, so they're doing everything to push shorts right now. And so the whole thinking here is like there are people here that they're really good at shorts or like reels or whatever, but they aren't making a lot of money. So if you can come in as Louis Vuitton, instead of offering 10,000 or whatever, maybe you offer them like 15, 20K a month, and you get to work at Louis Vuitton for a year, and maybe we'll give you discounts on bags. I don't know. What I'm glad with this kind of iOS 14 update is that it's making marketing hard again, and it's forcing creativity. But if you think about buying versus building, if you can somehow buy this attention, then why would you not do that? Because attention is the name of the game.
I think it's super smart. Just for reference for the audience, so iOS 14 update introduced ATT, which is Apple Tracking Transparency, which basically, long story short, makes it much harder to provide accurate attribution and tracking for a lot of the big social companies like Meta or Snapchat. It's much harder to target specific users since you don't know whether they converted or not. You're kind of missing a feedback signal, and that has kind of diluted targeting quite a lot. And Eric, I think that's kind of what you're alluding to, is like you have to be a bit more creative again. You have to maybe even tap into like classic marketing principles again of like getting that attention. And I love the idea with TikTok. I actually know some companies that are building their own incubator of TikTok accounts because the attention that these creators get is so massive. And so
I'll tell you one more thing.
Yeah.
Like, so Kevin, my one of my buddies, he has a holding company, and he's just decided to build publications, right? So he's hiring an army of writers, and he's hired people that have worked at publications, and he's actually bought some .orgs, right, where you could even trace it back to him. And the name of the game is attention. So Bill Gates said in the 90s that every company is going to become a media company. I think it's happening slowly. But that's the move. It's the easy mode of Facebook and Google ads just only is, I think that's, fast going away.
I love that. And it's also super authentic, right? Like I did like a little bit of research before recording this podcast, and I looked for LVMH on YouTube. And the first couple of videos were from the company itself, which is awesome. But I wanted to hear a third party. I wanted to hear someone else talk about the company. Hiring some TikTokers or buying their accounts or something like that would go a long way. My question back to you is, what kind of content would you ask them to create as a brand?
It's the tough thing here is it has to be on brand, because we're talking premium stuff. So I'm trying to, let's use it. Okay, this is funny. So maybe those of you that have seen Crazy Rich Asians on Netflix. So all they do is they talk about Chanel. They talk about like all these brands out there. So I think it's kind of funny because it is on brand for them. Like it's, promoting this to an Asian audience, like people like to see people like themselves. They like to see funny stuff too. So I think there's probably an angle there to collab with like Kim Lee, who's like one of the DJs from the show, right? And like maybe she can do maybe it's just some funny stuff that she's doing that it can't come off too scripted, right? To your point, like you talk about being authentic. So it could be like maybe they work on a deal with Netflix or whatever, and they just take certain clips and they make shorts out of them. I don't know, right? Like I'm not the creative one for this, but that's just an idea.
Yeah, it's a really good idea, and I could even see like sending some of these creators to some events without like as you mentioned, like without making it too scripted, but just just sending them over and have like share some of the content, maybe even talk to some of the designers. So maybe it would be interesting to not only have kind of the classic type of brand ambassadors as TikTok creators, but also maybe some specialists kind of in the industry who talk a little bit about about the design and about the creation process. Because one topic that's super top of mind when it comes to fashion and Gen Z is sustainability. So especially when we talk about TikTok and who's on TikTok and what they care about, sustainability is definitely one aspect. And I'm not sure that the luxury fashion industry has the best image when it comes to sustainability. I know it's like a big talking point. So I can see like a lot of really cool plays there.
Yeah, I think they might need to pay attention to, but I just don't think they care at the moment. So we'll see in due time.
Kind of like such a missed opportunity, and I'm saying that because Shein, I might butcher the name, valued at $100 billion, coming out of China, fast fashion retailer, and a lot of their growth was through TikTok, by sending these like bags of fashion to influencers on TikTok, or sometimes to just like normal people that don't have a large following for the authenticity bonus, and literally building a huge audience through TikTok. And I think that has also rebounded a little bit. I think there was some criticism of sustainability, so it can go two ways. But you actually see a company that is valued at a high price point that built most of their growth on TikTok. It's insane. Their organic traffic is pretty much nil except for their brand, because they didn't even optimize their store for SEO because they don't care.
Makes sense. Yeah, it's we'll see where this all goes. I think the incubator idea is really smart too. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a holding company of these, like a lot of stuff just ends up going to holding companies, but maybe that's for another episode.
For sure. This is a holding company episode. Cool. To like round this up. So my third idea was a little bit in your corner, Eric. So I thought about Louis Vuitton should think about skins for games. And it could be games like Fortnite, for example, that is known for having like seasonal skins and specific skins. And the reason I think that might be a good idea is because, first of all, you address the younger generations, right? It's like Gen Z, they care about that type of stuff. They're playing a lot of Fortnite, not exclusively them, but they're very, very represented there. This principal idea of starting audiences young and building brand awareness early is actually not new. Car companies, in fact, have been doing that for decades, where you can buy little toy cars from Mercedes or from Ferrari. And the whole idea is to get the brand into people's heads as quickly as possible, as crazy as it sounds. So you could think about selling game skins as a luxury brand, and you can maybe even bundle that with kids products. Now the market for luxury kids products is probably not crazy, but the thing is that these skins will get a lot of attention, right? So imagine you're like 16 years old, you're playing Fortnite, and you have like this unique Louis Vuitton skin that you only get when you buy, like, I don't know, Louis Vuitton t-shirt or something along these lines. And a challenge as LVMH is to actually partner with the game platforms, to partner with the Roblox or with the Fortnites, to get these skins online, right? And to have them be exclusive. And so the question then is, what's in it for the game companies? And I think it's interesting because what's in them is that they can better identify their richest users, so to say, the richest players, right? So if they know who bought or who got that unique exclusive Louis Vuitton skin, there might also be an opportunity to say, hey, maybe you want to buy some other skins because we know you're loaded, right? We know you have a lot of money, or maybe your parents do. So that's kind of why gaming platforms want to collaborate with LVMH. And to your point, Eric, you can even make these skins NFTs to really guarantee that it's unique and not a copy, not somebody building their own skin. And the fine thing about this idea is you can make skins seasonal because fashion is seasonable as well, right? And if you have a new pattern for this winter collection, maybe that pattern can be an NFT that can be a skin in a game that maybe only 10 people have, right? Or maybe even better, every skin is absolutely unique. And I'm sure there are ways for Louis Vuitton to kind of facilitate that with some sort of machine learning algorithm or so. And then you're kind of the only player with that skin. And that I think is very attractive for the players. I think it's introducing a new audience to LVMH. It's interesting for the gaming companies. And there's like a cool kind of tech play that this company can ride.
Yeah. I think my take on this one, I like the direction that you're going in. I think coming from a gaming background, let's use Formula One as an example. We both know that that's like premium, right? Like that's when you see like Rolex always sponsoring it, the biggest oil companies in the world, Aramco sponsoring it, right? And then I do believe you see like luxury brands sponsoring too. So it would just have to be something that's luxury. Like, could it be like a Fortnite championship or something like that, where there's like some type of prestige that's tied into with it? As long as there's some prestige, then I think it works. But I think if it's made too available, to your point, it probably does. It cheapens the brand, right? Because you and I have both seen in public when people have like fake Louis Vuitton bags and things like that. Like it's like different demographics. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. You probably also need to invest in some sort of a brand campaign so that everybody knows what these skins mean. Because if it's just the players, right, in the small audience and everybody else doesn't care. And the point about luxury, besides just the quality of the product, is that everybody else can recognize what you have, right? They can recognize, oh, this watch is actually $100,000 compared to maybe my, $100 watch, or they see the design of the handbag and they know it's a certain brand. So if you want to go down the, to kind of add to your point, to my point, if you want to go down the skins game or the NFT game, you at the same time to create some sort of awareness that this is something really cool, right? Because otherwise people just won't know what this is and won't care. And then there's no incentive for people to use it. Speaking of gaming, I mean, you literally wrote a book about kind of like looking at your life as a game, as like leveling up. What was the experience of writing a book like for you? What was the reception? Would you do it again? And kind of how happy are you with the result?
Yeah. So leveling up the book, it's more of like an introduction to personal growth, specifically for gamers, because I played a lot of games growing up. And I believe we sold about 10,000 copies or so. But the way I look at it is it's a long play. So 10,000 is already pretty good, but like I didn't push all my audiences against it, because usually when you market a book, you're trying to blitz. You're trying to use up all your favors and use up all your audiences. That wasn't what I was trying to do. Leveling up to me is just a philosophy, right? It's basically like, how do you gamify life? And then for me, my own mission is, with Leveling Up Heroes, which is the project that we're dropping, it's to train and invest into the next generation of founders. All that kind of like, there's like stacking, right? Like first you stack habits, then you stack like your skills, then you stack other kind of skills on top, and eventually you just become a well-rounded person where you're probably investing, or you're probably you're owning assets, or like you're building an asset, like a cash flowing asset, right? So that's the game. That's the way the world is set up right now, and I just want to help more people play it.
I love that. I admire that very much, because like giving back and kind of helping others make it to the next level of the game is super important. What kind of skills are you looking for in new founders? Like what are some of the green flags that you keep an eye out for?
So right now, for example, there are like a handful of agencies I'm talking with right now. So usually the range is anywhere from, let's call it 1 to 5 million or so in revenue. So they have to have done something already, right? They have to have like, beaten some levels. At that point, then what we would do is we would, do an investment, take a minority share in the business. And then, our goal would be to triple the revenue, or else we'd give the equity back in X amount of time. That's on the services side. But then in terms of how I invest, from like an early stage investor standpoint, I'm looking for things that have a large total addressable market. So I invested in a company called 8 Sleep. And they have like sleep technology, right? Everyone needs to sleep better. Stuff like that. Obviously the founders that have a proven track record, and people, where I'm basically, because angel investing is you're kind of gambling and you're betting on the founders. So that's what it is. I think, and ultimately, if I were to narrow it down, this guy over here, Warren Buffett, says 3 things that matter when you are looking to work with someone. It's intelligence, it's integrity, and it's energy. Or put differently, it's people that are humble, hungry, and smart. Those are just a couple things, but we have like an entire checklist.
Love that. And also curious, you're yourself a seasoned and accomplished founder and entrepreneur. What do you think helped you kind of, quote unquote, see life as a game? Like, how did you figure that out, and what do you think made you successful in that?
It's weird, but like, when I wake up in the morning, sometimes, I'll have like, this is like really, I've actually never talked about this on a podcast before. It's really nerdy, but I don't know if have you played StarCraft before?
Yes, I have a lot.
Yeah. So when you're building the photon cannon, there's like power up sound while it's warping in. Sometimes when I, like maybe my mid-20s or so, like when I'm waking up in the morning, like I'm powering up, I'll be thinking about that sound. I don't know. I just apply everything back, because a lot of who we are, forget about gaming for a second, all comes from our childhood, right? So like your experiences with your parents, your experiences with whether you played sports or whether you played games. So that is the foundation of who we are. And I would say 99% of us don't go back and figure out like how we're actually wound up, and maybe there's some things that we need to unwind. But anyway, that's how it all led into me thinking, oh, like everything I'm doing actually ties in with the game, like how I behave, like how I think about like my specific routine in the morning. And I'm not saying everyone needs a routine. Like not having a routine is also a routine, but I just like stacking all these things. That to me is like you're getting a lot of buffs. So
what was your favorite StarCraft race? What do you play?
Terran. Yeah, I actually still watch StarCraft 2 replays right now, sometimes when I eat lunch.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, what kids are doing these days, I sound like an old man, but it's like what pros are doing is just incredible. I'm still a big fan of Zerg, but on one
so you like Cyril?
Yeah, yes, you bet. But yeah, on a more serious note, it makes perfect sense, and it's kind of like I actually think that a lot of successful founders and people in the business have been early gamers and were playing a lot of computer games. I listened to a podcast recently, I don't know which one it was, but they made a very similar point where they said, if you've achieved a certain rank in a certain computer game, that shows that you have grit and you can obsess over things and you can go after things. So actually really good computer gamers might be good founders. Not always. I don't say there's like a causation here. It's not that you get a better fund because you play computer games, but I think it's like one of these things that can show up early in life where you maybe achieve a certain goal or accomplish something that then also reflects in entrepreneurship.
It goes back to your point, right? Like it's really about working with someone that's been there, done that, right? Someone that's okay. When I talk to someone's like, oh, like, have you started something? Like, what have you actually started before, right? So, oh, well, my most impressive accomplishment is I won this championship. Well, tell me how you got there. Or like, I started this business. Well, tell me what happened there. Like, tell me how you got there. So you're looking for people that have a knack for powering through things, but usually what that means is like someone that's done something impressive. Like they've had to go through all those trials.
Love it. Love it. Hey, I think it's a great way to wrap up here. Thanks for the great ideas. Love it. Let's see if LVMH actually uses some of these or not. But either way, it was a ton of fun brainstorming here with you. Eric, where can people find and follow you?
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at EricOSIU or on Instagram. Either of those work. And yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. Thanks for being on. 3, 2, 1.